Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, winers, diners and kitchen designers, welcome along to the Joe Spivey YouTube channel, where we discuss books and little else. And you join me, as I'm sure you can perceive, in a new and different cinematic location. I am in the foothills of Derbyshire, folks, no less. The location of many of our favourite canonical classics. Unfortunately, I haven't bedded any damsels. I haven't, befriended any of the Episcopal clergy. I haven't settled a mortgage on a pocket of land. I've done none of that. But I have been on a really rather handy book shopping spree. There are some wonderful non-proprietary second-hand stores here in Derbyshire, so I've got myself an indomitable stack for you all to consider. We've got some folios here, we've got some biographies, we've got some history, we've got more Penguin classics, as is our almost weekly want. So yes, here I am, sat on the floor with a, as you can see, a really rather, authoritative and pungent light coming in at me, but we do our best with the situation handed to us. So yeah, let's get right into this bad boy. First up we have, as I'm sure you can tell from the front cover, this is Anthony Trollope's Can You Forgive Her? This is the start of his Palliser novels. I am a committed and inarguable Trollopean, folks. I think he is the most hospitable of all the Victorian writers. I have never, I don't think, read the opening page of his novels and not wanted to read, a subsequent 10-chapter spree. He is absolutely remarkable, and this is from the Folio Society, if I can angle that lighting correctly. Can You Forgive Her? Yeah, the start of his Palliser novels. I think these come with some really handy, yes, we've got some illustrations on maybe every 40 or 50 pages, if I can haphazardly locate one for you without running out of words to say whilst we're shooting this recording. There's one, very handily. There's a gentleman straddling a horse with his top hat. That's about to fall from his head, presumably. And I think, yeah, there's a gentleman who has fallen rather foul of, presumably, a dressage contest or something like that. See if we can get anything else. There aren't an awful lot of illustrations, given that it advertises them a lot. Another field setting. That's a man in tweed giving a fine damsel an authoritative backhand or something like that. She's clearly done him dirty or something like that. Yes, they're done. They look as if they've been done with a ballpoint pen. But they're decent illustrations. Who is it that does these? Obviously, Trollope was the one with the words and the prosody. But the illustrations are by Llewellyn Thomas, who is almost certainly from Wales. It's got an introduction by David Skilton. So that is another one of somebody in a top hat. But yeah, this is the start of Trollope's Palliser novels, the political novels, and I am myself constructing an altogether less effective and efficacious political novel of my own at the moment. So I've read Disraeli's Coningsby recently, so Parliament, at least sort of novelistic renditions of Parliament, are very much on my mind. Yes, so that's, Trollope's Can You Forgive Her? Next up, in an equally unbroadcastably unclear front cover, we have Trollope's Phineas Finn, which is the next in the lineup of the Palliser novels. This was £4, as is indicated there. I was rather disappointed, folks. I am going to be honest, because I've berated the extortionate prices of brand new books, and these were only sort of 50% of that. And I would much like. I'm used to paying £1 and £2 tops for a 300-400 page novel. So to say that I was irked is a little bit of an understatement, but I pressed on anyway. Commodity fetishism and retail therapy and all that. But yes, this is Phineas Finn, the Irish member. That's the frontispiece, is it? And there you have the gentleman in the pews of the House of Commons. Nowadays, most members of Parliament use that time to watch hardcore penetrative pornography, but back in the day, I think they did that. They used that space to probably revise their speeches. So yes, these are again illustrated by Llewellyn Thomas. There's an introduction by J. Enoch Powell in this one. Whether that's the famous ethno-nationalist, I'm not too sure, but it's certainly an Enoch Powell that has done these illustrations, done the introduction, but the illustrations were done by Llewellyn Thomas again. She clearly got a big commission to do so. That looks like a rather auspicious palatial chamber. So that is, a gentleman with terrible hair and a long tailcoat, and that's a lady with who's just probably removed her rollers and her curlers. She looks astonished, and he looks to be placating her, or at least attempting to. Yes, so that's Phineas Finn. Again, I'm not too bothered really about the format of my books. A real pedant would probably have sort of eschewed these or put them aside rather than buy them, because I don't have any other Folio Society's editions of Trollope, but I want as many of Trollope's novels as I can get, and if they come to me in this hardback, really rather regal and altogether, sort of aesthetically pleasing format, then I'm gonna take it, folks, shamelessly. I will admit my thigh muscles are hurting somewhat, because I am a city boy at heart, sort of an urban dweller, and so I don't very often come across undulations as I have today. The topography of Derbyshire, as well, is up and down, to say the least, up and down the grassy parabolas, and so I've been on cobblestones and all that, and I've been digging my heels in. My days as an aspiring professional racing cyclist have completely left me, and I now live a sedentary lifestyle and would much rather eat something that Henry VIII would have had on his plate, rather than go out and do 30 or 40 miles of aerobic activity. So I'm unfit, so I'm aching. So I'm ridiculously tired, as I'm sure this video demonstrates. But yeah, next up we have Phineas Redo. This is the last Trollope classic, folks. Don't worry, hang in there, you guys who want, Katy Perry biographies and books from Lady Gaga. Yes, so we do have Phineas Redo, which I think is I'm hoping anyway, I've got this right, is the third instalment of the Palliser novels. We do at least have a bloody blurb to relate to you at this time. Phineas Finn is living quietly in Dublin, presumably the Phineas Finn from the aforementioned novel, resigned to the fact that his political career is over, and coming to terms with the death of his wife, when he receives an unexpected invitation to return to Parliament. He jumps at the chance, and old romances and rivalries are revived. I won't go into any more, because that will spoil the plot, probably. This has an introduction by Greg A. Hesimovich, something. It's a very, very worn front cover, and yet it was still £2.50. So this is, yes, I think the third instalment. That's Phineas Redo. That's somebody with a ridiculously large newspaper. I believe they were that big then, weren't they? You always see Dr. Watson in the dramatisations of Sherlock Holmes sort of wrestling with this, what amounts to a journalistic tent. That's not actually a newspaper, and a sort of probably a compatriot there, or certainly an interlocutor with a bit of whiskey. There's a gentleman struggling to read. But anyway, yes, that's Phineas Redo. Next up we have another Penguin classic coming at you. This is Jane Austen's Northanger Abbey. I absolutely love pretty much all of Austen's works that I've read thus far. Again, toss a coin as to whether she can actually introduce or begin a novel in an effective way. Sometimes you read the first 6 or 7 pages of Sense and Sensibility or Emma, and you think, I'm not so sure what's going on here. But sometimes she does get it right. So this is Northanger Abbey. During an eventful season at Bath, young, naive Catherine Morland experiences fashionable society for the first time. Oh, to have been a fly on the wall. She is delighted with her new acquaintances. Flirtatious Isabella, who introduces Catherine to the joys of Gothic romances, which will link with our current Lord Byron read-along, and sophisticated Henry and Eleanor Tilney, who invite her to their father's house, Northanger Abbey. There, influenced by novels of horror and intrigue, Catherine comes to imagine terrible crimes committed by General Tilney, risking the loss of Henry's affection, and has to learn the difference between fiction and reality, false friends and true. False friends and true. That's very poorly written, isn't it? So yes, that's Northanger Abbey there, folks. So yes, another Penguin classic for my fine collection. Very obviously second-hand. Look at that. This has been gone through with a fine-toothed comb, but nobody has done any. Why is it that people don't annotate? I get so many very second-hand books, and I just find that nobody seems to draw in them, which probably renders all of my copies of books untradeable. But yes, that's Northanger Abbey. There we are with Mrs. That's probably Catherine Morland on the front there, looking sort of not really distraught, but not really curious either. What does she look there? Slightly embarrassed a little bit, maybe a little timid. But anyway, that's Northanger Abbey. Next up, we've got 3 more to go. Hang in there, folks. So yes, I hope you're all at least 50 or 60 pages into Fiona McCarthy's Byron Life and Legend. I'm absolutely loving it, and I am nearly pretty much ready to discuss our stuff with her with you guys on Monday and Tuesday. So hopefully, yeah, you've done the reading. That's the admission ticket. Do the reading. Otherwise, you cannot turn up to a Joe Spivey seminar, or at least you can, but you will find your pants around your ankles really rather quickly. But yes, anyway, next up we have Tolstoy, a biography of Tolstoy by A.N. Wilson. This is again from Penguin Publishing House. Again, something that has been well thumbed by its previous owner, that's been utterly abused, I am sure. So this hasn't got any blurb on it, but it does have some praise. We've got Peter Levy from The Independent. Says that it was masterly. It is his best book by far. All his skills as a writer, his fire as a critic, his insight as a novelist, and his experience of life have come together in this subject. Yada yada yada. Leon Adele called it one of the best biographies of our century. Michael Armstrong, Philip Howard, and then the Sunday Telegraph. But this won the 1988 Whitbread Award for the best biography. I do always look at significant biographies in particular of literary figures because our patron and pariah, Mr. Steve Donahue here on BookTube, is a confessed avowed lover of biographies and has been reviewing things since 1522 by all accounts, and so I usually look for him on the blurb. Unfortunately, he is not here, but there's a photograph of Mr. Tolstoy. I am supposed to be getting around to War and Peace, folks. I read Piva and Volkonsky's translation, or no, it wasn't. Yes, it was Piva and Volkonsky's translation of Anna Karenina in the summer before I was on BookTube, and so wasn't able to record any of my reactions and found it stilted slightly, a little bit. I don't know, just not quite enjoyable. It wasn't the translation for me. So yes, I do need to go back to Tolstoy. But yes, I don't know how much of an exciting life he had. He looks a boring soul, but most Russians with beards like that had 19 children, 16 of which died before they were 15. And, had to tend land for 24 years before they were then inherited. Then they were disinherited. Then they fought in a war. Then they swam for, 3 weeks in, the Atlantic Ocean in ridiculously icy waters. Then they broke up with 17 wives. Then they got heroin addictions. That's usually the life of the Russian writer, which is why Dostoevsky's stuff is so absolutely strewn with despondent existential stuff. So hopefully Tolstoy had an interesting life. I don't know anything about what he did, but I do know that his wife played a significant role in the editorship of his books. But yes, that's I hope, a full life of Tolstoy by A.N. Wilson. I did pick up, had in my hands. It's weird that pick up has become synonymous with actually purchasing. I picked up I think it's Kershaw's biography of Hitler, but found that it was only the early period of whenever it was. When was he born? 1889 to 1930 or something. The rise to power, as it were, which I already know like the proverbial back of my hand, because that was covered in Shearer's Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. So I didn't get that, but I was nearly clickbaited into getting it because of its alluring cover. I think it was one of my people that I was with, one of my people in my company when I was in the bookstore, had seen that cover before and had thought of me. I do find it great that I'm getting a reputation as somebody that likes biographers of heinous dictators. It's nice that I've become synonymous with the underbelly of historiography. But anyway, 'twas ever thus. And we've got two more titles for you folks. We've got, I'll go for this one first actually, because it's more on theme. We've got Hilary Mantel's Wolf Hall, which won, apparently, the 2009 Man Booker Prize. In Wolf Hall, Hilary Mantel brings the opulent, brutal world of the Tudors to bloody, glittering life. It is the backdrop to the rise and rise of Thomas Cromwell. The rise and rise of Thomas Cromwell. Is that a misprint? Low-born boy, charmer, bully, master of deadly intrigue, and finally, most powerful of Henry VIII's courtiers. A superb epic work, one of our finest living writers. I'm just looking for some of the credits there. No, and it was shortlisted for the 2009 Costa Novel Award, which we all will remember was won by Sally Rooney in 2018 and 19. So this is probably, by that reckoning, is worse than Normal People, which is, I think, thematically and just sort of intellectually impossible. But yes, this is Wolf Hall. I've heard very good things. It brings to life a usually sort of quite mundane, not mundane, but uninteresting period of history. Apparently, it sort of brings it to life, and it's a thick thing. So I'll be reading that at some point. That is Is that going to reference the War of the Roses with Lancashire and Yorkshire? I think it probably is. So that's, yes, Hilary Mantel's Wolf Hall there. And then last but not least, we have Abramovich, The Billionaire from Nowhere by Dominic Midgley and Chris Hutchins. This is Roman Abramovich, one of the architects-in-chief in the Kremlin for some time. He's known as, I think, essentially known as Mr. R or Mr. A in the Kremlin, was at one point. A friend of Boris Yeltsin, a friend of the demonic ruler of that nation, Vladimir Putin, who is waging an illegal war in Ukraine at the moment, and because of this was sanctioned economically, had his legs, had his monetary legs cut in two by the British government, and many of his, opulent palaces and many of his NW1 townhouses were. I don't know whether they were stripped from him, but they were made. It was made sure that they were difficult to access. He's also famous for being for being a long time and successful chairman, CEO, owner of my favourite association football team, Chelsea Football Club, and yes, he brought about or ushered into being what became known as the Roman Empire. See what they did there, folks. Yes, so essentially we were very successful because he had billions of pounds or euros to throw at the game. And yes, he has since sort of retreated into the shadows. But yeah, apparently this has got a new explosive chapter. This won't be right up to date. You could do a properly good one now. But as is the case with much of Russian documentation, I don't know how sort of firmly ensconced this is going to be in factual base. What will be the factual basis of this book? Because the primary sources are very difficult to come by. You're probably just going to be dealing with diary entries of ex-girlfriends and models, and the crew of his yachts and things like that. So I'm not really sure. The Billionaire from Nowhere. He was, of course, very successful due to the Russian loans for shares scheme of the 90s, whereby state assets that, some random blokes who digged plutonium when they were very young just happened to have a hold of, and then when it was privatised under maybe Yeltsin or maybe the guy before, I can't remember, with Russian dictators. Yes, when it was privatised under that lot, of course, those who had their those assets under their power became unimaginably wealthy, meteorically wealthy, absolutely castratingly wealthy, and Mr. Abramovich was one of those. But yes, that concludes my book haul for today. I suppose it could be I may even title it a belated birthday book haul, because most of the money that was handed over the counter was stuff that fell from birthday cards at the start of the week. But yes, I hope you enjoyed the bland, minimalist surroundings to this video. I will probably be back in my more usual surroundings of my living room / front room for the run through of Byron, Life and Legend by Fiona McCarthy, which is scheduled for Tuesday. So if you if you perform a dereliction of duty and do not read those 120 pages, 130 pages or whatever, you will find your knuckles wrapped and your cases in the halls, folks. But yeah, that pretty much covers for me for today. So yes, thank you ever so much for watching BookTube, and goodbye.